inspiration. It's my pleasure coming your way again today. We started looking at how to fulfill your destiny by ensuring that you acquire skills, needed skills to become your best, to function at the maximum capacity. And one of the things we noted while as we began this series, is the fact that God has a purpose for your life. There are things that God has planned that you should become. There are things that God has planned that you should do. Those two things I don't want you to forget, because they are the foundation for a meaningful living. They are the foundations for a life of fulfillment. The day you realize that you are here on earth to become certain things for God at different phases of your life, the better for you. You will start living a life that makes sense. Now, we are not here to run the rat race of just making money, just satisfying social demands and all of that. We are here primarily because there is someone who sent us here, and for each one of us, there are specific things He wants us to become. Because it is in your becoming what He wants you to become that you then can affect people's life the way He wants you to affect them. You've got to become what He wants you to become. For example, He said of Jeremiah, He said, Jeremiah, before I formed you, I knew you. While you were still in your mother's womb, I ordained you to be a prophet, to become something. And then we also noted that aside from what you are supposed to be, are what you are supposed to do. There are things you are supposed to do. There are projects you are supposed to carry out. There are activities you are supposed to carry out. There are things that God has planned that you should implement. So when you are if you are to enjoy your life, to find fulfillment with your life, you must then be at the center of what you are supposed to be, and then be at the center of what you are supposed to do, doing them and becoming them. So we said that to be able to get to the peak of performance in becoming what you're supposed to become, in doing what you're supposed to do, there is a need for you to have skills, acquired ability, special acquired abilities that will enhance your performance. And then we noted that there are 6 different areas of skills that you must acquire, 6 broad categories of skills that you must acquire. We talked about the self-mastery skills, which is a set of skills that will help you to master yourself, to be in charge of yourself, to help yourself regulate yourself. Because a man that cannot control himself, that cannot regulate himself, we talked about skills like attention regulation skill, we talked about skills like appetite management skill, we talked about comportment and appearance management skills and all that. So you need those skills. Now, aside from that, we talked about other skills. And so yesterday we were talking about social skills, which has to do with the skills with which you relate with people and manage relationships. So we talked about communication skills, we talked about people management skills, and we talked about people assessment skills. And we started with leadership skill yesterday, and so I'm going to pick it up from there. And we said that in the course of your life and my life, there are assignments that will require, or maybe we should put it this way, your purpose and your assignment in life will require that you take leadership responsibilities. What is leadership? We say leadership is about influence, the ability to be able to influence people around you to go in a particular direction that ordinarily they would not have gone if you are not there. And so God has done it in such a way that we are all supposed to be leaders in one way or the other. And so you have a responsibility to lead some people according to your purpose of existence, according to the activities that God wants you to do. So you are supposed to lead, and so you need to know how to be the leader that God wants you to be. Now, some people just find themselves in leadership position and they do not know how to implement. They do not know what to do. They do not know how to do what they are supposed to do. And because they do not know what to do, they make a mess of their destiny. They make a mess of divine agenda and divine intentions for them. So we want to look at the skills that you need to acquire, because see, God is going to be sending you people. God is going to be sending you resources, sending you people and all of that. And as God will be bringing all of these things into your life, bringing different people into your life, you are required to learn how to manage them, how to positively influence them. If God brings people into your life and you do not influence them rightly, then you will be seen as a failure. Not only that, you may create problem for them, because see, if God has brought people into your life that he intends that you should influence positively, and you are not influencing them the way God wants you to influence them, you are not going to be doing justice to the position that God has given to you, to the opportunities that God has given to you. So you need to be able to know how to lead, acquire the necessary skills to make you to lead effectively. So we are looking at some of the skills that you are supposed to look at. Number one that we talked about yesterday is the envisioning skills. The ability to be able to see the future. The ability to be able to picture, to have, vision is the mental picture of the desired future that you have in your mind. You have a mental picture of the ultimate outcome that is intended. And is very essential for you as a leader. If you cannot envision, then you cannot lead well. So you need to be able to see well, to be able to see possibilities, to be able to see the future. So you have a picture in your mind. You have to allow your mind to be able to think, to be able to dream. Yeah, I think that's a good word. You must prime yourself to be able to dream. For example, you have to start a business or you have to start a company. It might even be from ground zero. Can you picture what it is likely going to be? Can you picture where you are going with your team? Because see, for you to lead people, there must be somewhere you are taking them. And your mind must have been able to see that place. If you do not have the ability to picture the future, then you will have a problem. For example, when people come to you, you must be able to see what are the possible things they can become. What is the positive that can come out of their lives? Let's look at the man called David. David was a shepherd boy, and having served with Saul for some time, Saul was angry with him, but David exhibited leadership skill among the people that were serving around Saul. And so when David left Saul, the Bible records that 400 people were gathered to him. Let me tell you the qualities of these people. The Bible referred to them as disgruntled, discontented, and disillusioned. They were disgruntled, they were discontented, they were disillusioned. In other words, they were people that you could regard as riffraffs, but people that you could regard as non-entities. Those were the people that gathered to David. But David, even in the state that he was, David was able to transform their lives. David could see in this disgruntled, discontented, disillusioned human beings, he could see potentials of becoming great people. And then he put them to task. He challenged them in that direction with the vision that he saw. And after some time, those same people were recorded and regarded as mighty men of David. The same disgruntled, discontented people had been transformed. So when the Bible was going to describe the leadership of David, it was described this way in Psalm 73. It says, David led the people. He led the people with the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hands. Integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of it. So the skill there that was talked about was the leadership skill to envision, to see possibilities. So The first two as a leader is vision, because it is the vision that gives you the influence over people. People follow you not necessarily because of your title or that about. Yes, there may be people that will have no choice. You have a position, and so out of fear of that position, what you can do with that position, you can sanction them and all of that. They are going to follow you, but beyond that position, they are not going to follow you. It was John Maxwell who taught us about the 5 levels of leadership. He said there's positional leadership, in which people follow you because you have a position, you have a title. They've just made you the supervisor, so everybody is following you because you are the supervisor, because they are afraid that when you report them, they can have problem. Okay, so beyond that position, they are not going to follow you, so you are just a positional leader. Then he said you need to move from there to the second level of leadership, which is relational leadership. People follow you because they like you. You have built a friendship with them, you love them and all of that, and then they love you back. So they are following you because they just like you. Then John Maxwell at that point said, look, if you allow your leadership to only be either positional or relational, you will not be effective. He said, because the ultimate essence of leadership is that you are supposed to create a result. You are supposed to make things happen. So John Maxwell said it is important to go to the next level of leadership, which is production leadership or result-oriented leadership, wherein you then galvanize the people, you harness all their human resources, you harness them together, all their potentials, and you channel it towards a cause, and then you produce a result. Then the people are happy. So they are following you because they know you are a result-oriented leader. They know that come what may, this leader is going to get a result. I'm not so much a fan of football, but somehow I try to glean from everything. There's a coach that is called Mourinho, and one of the things about this coach is that he's result oriented, and you find that a lot of people like him primarily because his primary aim is I want to win the game, I want to win the cup. So it's not so much about either he's a friend to this or a friend to that, as much as the result that he needs to get. And so as a leader, you've got to have vision, because it is the vision, our capacity to have vision, because that vision that will really give meaning to your leadership. If you can't see a tomorrow, if you cannot see a result, if you cannot picture a transformation to which you will rally people, I'm afraid that you may not be able to fulfill your destiny in grand style, because at different stage of your life, God is going to expect you to produce certain results, and is going to bring people around your life, and then you are expected to move them by vision. You know what I found out? Even great people will allow you to lead them if you have a vision. If you can just show people this is what is possible, this is what we can do, let us rally around and get it done, people will follow you. There's this popular saying that goes this way: everyone follows a man that knows the way. Once there is a man who knows the way, who knows where he's going, who knows where we ought to go, then you find out that everybody will rally around that man and follow. So that's the first skill. The second skill is resource management. I said also yesterday that God is going to bring resources your way. He's going to bring you material resources. It's going to bring you money, it's going to bring you people, and you've got to know how to harness those resources together to achieve an aim. I spoke a lot about that yesterday, so let's move to the next one. The third one is goal setting. The ability to be able to set a goal before you, to have an aim. Because you see, when you are leading people, there must be what you are aiming to achieve. What's the goal set before you? You must give yourself a goal. It was Brian Tracy who said, a whole lot of life, when you boil it down, it comes to one thing: goals set. Because see, once you have goals before you then can drive towards the goal, can drive towards your objectives. You must be able to, from time to time, state what are the objectives, what are you cut out to achieve, what are you leading people to achieve. Because if you do not know what you are leading people to achieve, if you cannot set your mind on what you want to lead people to achieve, the challenge you will have is that you will have a lot of activities that is actually contributing to nothing. So you must be able to set specific targets. Oh, this is April. By June, we should have done this. Oh, by July, we should have done this. Oh, by December, we should have done this. That technically gives direction, at least in the immediate. Now, vision is a broad picture, but goals actually gives you a benchmark. It gives you a milestone. Shows you, okay, yes, this is the big map that we have. This big map shows us ultimately where we are going, but how do we get there? Okay, let's take between so time and so time, let's take step to this place. Let's achieve this. Let's go this way. Let's go this way. That's what goal setting does. And you must be able to grow your capacity or acquire the skills of setting goals. I recommend the book of Brian Tracy for you, Goals. That book is phenomenal. I think it will be a great blessing to you if you can get that book, Goal. Now, aside from that, the fourth skills to acquire is crisis management skills. Crisis and conflict management skills. There will be challenges on the way, and they come usually for you in two forms. It could be in form of crisis, things that you do not expect just suddenly happen, and then your plans are disrupted, and things are going out of order. For example, we are in a crisis moment in the world. Coronavirus has disrupted the plans of nations, economic agendas, and all of everything had to come to a standstill. Europe had planned football activities, different ceremony. It had to come to an end. China had its own program that had to come to an end, and all of that. So what we had in our hands is crisis. And as a leader, you must be able to manage crisis. You must acquire skill. You know, the reason why some people are unable to fulfill their destiny is that they are not good at crisis management. They are on the path of becoming or doing what God wants them to do, and then crisis show up. And because crisis show up, they just lose their balance. Some just start crying. Some will just start complaining and start murmuring. Let me quickly say this to you. Crisis is part of life. You can't do anything about it. The fact that God has apportioned you to do something or to become something does not mean you are not going to have crisis in your hands. You are going to have very many of them, and you better prepare for it. Jesus demonstrated for us a lot about crisis management. You will see at different stages in his life, different kind of crisis came. Let's take one of them. He was in a boat with his disciples. He had already told them, let's go to the other side. And then the boat was sailing. And then suddenly there was a moment of crisis. The wind became boisterous. And then water was blown into the ship. And then it looks as if the ship was going to sink. And then the guys were so afraid. They were perplexed. They were scared. And then they woke him. Master, 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 don't you care that we are going to die? I love the way Jesus handled the matter. He just stood up, looked at them. He said, what's your stress? Why are you afraid? Calmly, he looked at the storm. And he said, peace, be still. And then the storm calmed down. Then he was looking at them, where's your faith? Now listen, you've got to learn the skills to manage crisis. And one of the vital skills to manage crisis is that you've got to anchor your faith, your confidence in God. You've got to build a strong stamina. It is not when crisis appear that you are now preparing to handle crisis. You must be prepared before it comes. So I think the first area in developing skills to manage crisis, which I'm going to recommend for you, is that you've got to develop a strong spiritual anchor in God. Because it's only God that can give us the confidence that we need in crisis. If you do not have God on your side, there are certain crises that can swallow you up. But if you have God on your side, your relationship with God is intimate and tight, then you can actually handle any kind of crisis and you will overcome with a high level of certainty that you are going to rise above it, because God is always a sure constant. All right. But aside from that, you've got to also come to the other practical side in strategy, in planning. I came across an article that was written about President George Bush Jr. And it was said that President George Bush was reading a book about possible pandemic. And he read how in the past there had been some epidemic outbreak of smallpox, and certain influencers that actually engulfed a particular territory. So the author was talking about the fact that there could be possible pandemic in the world and all of that. And then that triggered something in the heart of George Bush. As of that time, he was the president in 2005. And then what did he do? He called his men, and then they began to think of possible options and possible scenarios. And they were able to lay out a national strategic plan of dealing with pandemic. In fact, it was noted in that article that Dr. Fauci, who is currently leading the fight in the US against this thing, was one of the people on that team. In fact, it was said that George Bush was actually painting a picture in one particular seminar that a lecture that he went to deliver, and he was talking about the need for America to be prepared, even though it does not happen to them as of then 2005. He was talking about the need to be prepared. He was talking about and all that, and so he put something ahead. What I want to draw out of that is that preparation precedes performance. Sometimes you might need to prepare ahead and think of possible things that could happen so that you can handle crisis when they come. Now, either you are prepared or you are not prepared. The most important thing is that when there is crisis, don't panic. Don't exercise panic. Don't show fear. Even might be something that is you are supposed to be so afraid, you might be fearful. There may be some internal pressure and all of that. But you've got to be able to manage it. Because if you don't manage your crisis moment very well, the crisis can carry you off the ground and destroy your destiny completely. Now, hear this. Crises, oftentimes, they are demonically instigated to bring about confusion into your life and get you demoralized, destabilized, and ultimately immobile. Grind your destiny. So once you understand that, you know that you are fighting against something, and you choose not to allow crisis, either it's personal crisis or a corporate crisis. Anytime that there is crisis, you've got to know how to manage it. So that's one of the skills that a leader must acquire, how to manage crisis. Not only will you manage crisis, you must know how to manage conflicts. There will be a lot of conflict. No, conflict is said to be said to arise when there is a divergence view, when there's differences in opinion, when there's differences in perspective, and then two people have differences in perspective and all that, and so there's conflict. Now you've got to know how to manage conflicts. Either conflict within you and some of the people that are following you, or conflict between the people that are following you. The reason being that conflict primarily is going to create division. And you need a united vision for you to lead people well. If you lead a company, you lead a group, you lead a family, whatever it is, you need a united vision. Everybody must be seeing the same thing and going the same direction. Now, when conflict comes, it comes to tear people apart. And when people are torn apart, they cannot achieve their aim anymore. Remember the Tower of Babel. The people started with united vision, looking at the same thing. Their objective to build a tower that reaches to heaven. God said, look, if you lead these people this way, they will achieve their objective. There is only one way to get them off, let us send them conflict. Let us divide their mind. Let us divide their perspectives. And then once that happened, the project stopped. God didn't aim at the project, just aimed at dividing them, and that was the end. The devil will do the same thing. Primarily to divide, to just make sure that you are divided, to make sure that you and your team or the people on your team are divided. Now, sometimes it's even a family, husband and wife are divided, and then the husband does not know how to ensure that there is unity, manage the conflict very well. Sometimes it's with your children. Whatever it is, if you are going to fulfill destiny, you've got to acquire leadership skills in these areas that I've mentioned to be able to lead people well. Because one, an individual is too small a number to achieve significance. You are too small a number to achieve great things. Great thing or great things. Because God has done it in such a way that you will need people to achieve the things that God has structured out for your destiny to achieve. And if you are needing people, you will need leadership skill to be able to manage them. You need to have a visioning skill. You need to have skills of, like we're talking about, managing crisis and managing conflict. You need goal setting skills. You need skills to manage the resources that will come your way and their way to achieve the best. I believe this has helped you today. And I'm trusting God that in your journey of destiny, in different areas you're supposed to lead, the Lord God will endow you with the necessary wisdom to lead well. In the name of Jesus, you will not fail in your generation. Now, some of you are watching me now, something might be telling you, am I a leader? Can I really lead? I like to tell you, the reality is that everybody that has a destiny to fulfill is a leader. Take responsibility and keep moving in the direction of your destiny. And I trust God to help you. In case you have questions, you can send me a message. I'll respond. Until I come your way again next time. My name still remains Shegun Oduebo. God bless you. See you again.